Hi, just want to let you know there are a few rough spots in this recording. We tried the best we could to even it out, but we didn't want you to miss anything with this great interview with Steve Dale. So here we go. Enjoy.
Welcome to Your Family Dog, a podcast dedicated to helping families love living with dogs. Here are your hosts, Julie Fudge Smith and Colleen Pelar.
Hi, welcome to Your Family Dog. We are so excited today. We are joined by Steve Dale, and it's hard to sum up who and what Steve Dale is because he does so many things. Steve is a certified animal behavior consultant. He has a couple of radio shows. He writes columns and he blogs and he's contributed to books. He is fascinated by animals of all sorts. But today we've invited Steve here to talk to us about cats and dogs because these are the two most common household pets in America. And often we have issues about how to live happily with both cats and dogs. So thanks so much for joining us, Steve.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, guys.
How did you own both cats and dogs, and I'm assuming that you have somewhat of a peaceable kingdom in your household. How do you achieve that? Did you have dogs and then a cat, or a cat and then dogs? And can you give us some hints on how you might want to make this work for most families that want to have both species in their house? Any general suggestions?
Sure. So among other things, I work on WGN radio, and there's a host, nicest guy in the world, one of the most talented radio performers I've ever worked with. Notice that's my cop-out just in case he hears this thing.
Absolutely. We're going to link to him.
But that's actually true. One of the most talented interviewers. But every now and again, in 2016, 2017, today, this isn't something that 20 years ago. Today, he says, when referring to anything, Democrats and Republicans, for example, they'll say, and they're fighting like cats and dogs.
Mm-hmm.
That drives me crazy.
Yeah.
The truth of the matter is today, one of the trends in the pet world is we have an increasing number of families living in multi-species households. And while rabbits and ferrets and parakeets or guinea pigs are sometimes involved, it is most often, by far, cats and dogs living together. And I can, if you'd like, explain the reasons for that, but it is a growing trend. And in fact, more than a quarter of the people who have a pet have at least one cat and at least one dog. And the truth is, they do not need Jimmy Carter to come in and make the peace.
Thank goodness.
I didn't realize the statistic was that high, that it was 25% of most of households with pets.
And it's growing, actually. Mm-hmm. So there are a couple of reasons as to why this trend is increasing in number. More multi-species in one household. So the big reason really is our culture, for better or worse. The reality is half of America gets married more than once. And sometimes on that second time around, or dare I say third time around, or fourth or fifth or Elizabeth Taylor eighth time around, you're combining households. And you're combining not only the children with two legs, but the children with four. So let's say he had two dogs and she has three cats. And now there's two dogs and three cats in one household. So you're mix and matching households. That's one reason. The other reason is lifestyle. So more and more people in major metropolitan areas are living in apartments and condominiums. They may say, unfortunately, in my opinion, you can only have one dog. Mm-hmm. Some are worse. Some say no dogs at all or have weight restrictions for dogs. But some do allow happily. Many do allow dogs. But they may say only one. But that's not enough for many people. And some say, oh my gosh, my dog needs company. I can't get another dog, but I'll get a cat. Or feel, and perhaps justifiably so, I'm so busy. So getting another dog would mean more of my time, but getting another animal, but a cat, wouldn't be quite the responsibility. So for all of those reasons and others, we are seeing more dogs and cats living together happily in one house.
Which is great. I certainly enjoy living with a cat and a dog.
Well, I think
that's my life.
I think it's good for everyone. So cats are social animals. So if you go back for reasons I don't quite understand and look at some of the older, even veterinary publications and behavior publications, first of all, there are no popular press books that were written about cats 20 years ago. Don't ask me why. Or 25 years ago. Pam Johnson Bennett, a cat behavior consultant, was one of the first to break the mold and say, here's a book about cats. This is what they do. This is what they don't do. Here are the facts about cat behavior. But previous to her, there weren't that many, if any, books out there. And the scientists actually had it kind of wrong when they said cats are solitary creatures. What they are solitary hunters. But they're not solitary creatures. And the proof of that is pretty simple to find. I'm talking about domestic cats. I'm not talking about leopards. And I'm not talking about jaguar. I'm talking about domestic cats. They are not solitary. If they were, they wouldn't live with other cats. And when cats get outside, the stray cats, or what are they, the feral or community now is the right word, community cats, they live with other cats. They live in colonies. They even have a name for those colonies referred to as a clowder, not to be confused with chowder soup. Cats that perhaps live in Boston. I don't really know. But they do choose, to my knowledge, no politician has said, cats must live with other cats. It's a law. They choose to do it, and they've been choosing to do that now for thousands of years. This isn't news. So cats actually can get along with other cats, but cats are far more territorial in general than dogs. So that's how introducing a cat into a household with another cat or cats is not something that our cats always appreciate. Outside, the process of another cat integrating into a group of cats can take weeks and typically months. It's a very gradual, I'm going to move here, then I'm going to move a step closer, step back, step closer. That's pretty much how it goes. It's so gradual. In our household, we typically plop the new one in the middle of the living room and say, Here you go.
Yep.
The other cats involved. Introducing a dog to a household with cats can actually be easier than introducing a cat to a household with cats. Because cats, by their very nature, want to know who's moving in and want to know all about them if it is another feline. Cats know the difference, obviously, between cats and dogs. They know it's not another cat. And as I say, the process to do it right, and for the most chances of your success, after all, the cat didn't go to the animal shelter with you and say, I want that one. You're choosing that cat, and you're choosing an offense to their sensibilities because cats are so territorial. So it would be like, for me, moving into your house instantly and saying, you don't have a choice about it, I'm here. And cats, and some people would take offense, I suspect, especially if you knew how I lived. But cats for sure take offense to that. And the process has to be exceedingly gradual for the best odds of success. For dogs being introduced, all the cat wants to know is that I'm going to be safe. Now, for and there's this one fundamental, there are lots of differences between cats and dogs. Duh. But the biggest difference psychologically is the way they think. Dogs are more like us. Dogs are predators, which Homo sapiens are. And we think that way. Bear with me for a second as I talk ethologically here. Okay. Cats are both they're predator and prey. So they need to feel safe. They need to feel confident in their own environment. If a cat has previously had a very bad experience with a dog, then it's going to be tough going. And yes, for many cats, you can go through the process, but it may be a challenge. Happily, most cats have not previously been attacked by a dog, and therefore, adding a dog into the household, especially if it's a puppy, and I'm not saying you can only do this with puppies, but especially if it's a puppy, cats can, if they feel safer, it'll work very, very quickly. If not, once they do feel safe, it'll begin to work. The trick, cats are control freaks, and the trick is to help those cats or cat feel, okay, you're in control, you're going to be okay. And there are ways to do that, which have to do mostly with controlling the dog and encouraging the cat to go up, over there, way up there. There's two kind of cats in my world. There are cats that are what people think of as a typical cat, and that's the cat when if a strange dog comes in that's going to dive under the furniture or scamper, hopefully, up rather than under, up a cat tree if you have one, or on top of a windowsill, refrigerator, kitchen counter, whatever. And then there's the other kind of cat, and I call them stand-up cats because they will stand up to a dog. And those cats will take very quickly to anything that's introduced into the home, including another dog. Why? Is because they quickly learn to be in control. And they exert that very quickly. So as an example of that, we had a friend come over who was fostering a dog. I love Brittany's. It was a Brittany. I remember that. We have these very long hallways in our house. And he had just gotten this dog. I mean, I don't remember the dog's name, but you would think the dog's name was No, because every 2 minutes, no. The dog was, running over there. Our dogs were like barking, like, what's going on? Who is this crazy dog? This dog's out of control. I'm running off into a corner. At the end of one hallway was, at that time, a cat we had named Ricky. And Ricky just kind of stood there with his arms folded, if he had arms to fold, sat there waiting for the dog who's running down. And now the dog sees the cat, hits the brakes, but it's a wood floor. The cat goes, pow, right on the dog's nose. The dog went into a corner and didn't move for the entire time. I felt badly for the dog. Cats
Don't mess with Ricky.
Well, that's the thing. So size doesn't necessarily matter as much as attitude.
Yeah.
And a percent of cats actually do have that attitude, and dogs, if they don't get it by body language, and they may not understand cat signaling, they will get it by the response of the cat at some point. But most cats are not like that. Having a place to go that is a sanctuary, so to speak, is a good thing.
Always. I mean, I think that is such an important point that people forget. I mean, just your example of if you were to just move into our home, individuals in the home, human and canine, would go, oh, someone new lives here. And we expect that with humans, but we're always surprised when animals have an issue with a new animal coming in. It's a friendly dog. You should like him.
Right.
Maybe. So having a private spot's good.
I just had a client this morning, as a matter of fact, that they brought me in because they had two labs, one of whom was, I think, 7 and one of whom is 5. And they have a brand new puppy who's 4 months old. And the 5-year-old lab really wants nothing to do with this puppy. And they're very concerned about this integration. And I said, well, one of the things you really need to do is you need to allow the 5-year-old to integrate with the puppy on his terms, not yours. So that this dog needs to have a safe place to go. This dog needs to not be forced around the puppy. And that if the puppy comes out of his crate and the dog exits the room, that's fine. If the puppy's on a leash and is settled down next to you, and the dog has then come over and settled down on the other side of the woman, great. Everybody's getting treats. But there's no reason why you have to. Remember, this has to be on the dog's term and timeline, not your terms and timeline, because anytime you try to force it in what you think it ought to be, it's probably going to backfire. And some dogs just integrate more easily than others. And as long as we're not harming the puppy, we're just ignoring it, really, that's a pretty good situation, because it could be that this dog could get, really angry with the puppy or really try to, put it in its place. And that's not happening. So I think it's really important to understand that safe havens are important for anybody at any time. And it's important for the puppy to have one too. So that if the dog starts getting cranky, the puppy can go to its crate and know that it's going to be safe. So when you're talking about safety for cats, I'm assuming you're talking about something similar. A place like I have another client right now who just introduced a dog to their 2 cats, and they're very concerned about the integration. And I looked around the house and I said, your cats have no place to go up. There's a corner where you've got the cat scratch stand. Why don't you just put a cup? You can go to Lowe's or Home Depot, get some corner shelves and put those there so the cats can go up and get away from the dog.
Totally
and
right.
And so I think you'll find that there'll be a lot less chasing and a lot less problems if the cats have a way to be in the same room but be safe with the dog, and the dog can't get to it.
I agree. And today we've got a lot of tools. So 10 years ago, just to pick a number, we didn't have these things, or 15 years ago might be a better number to choose. So when integrating a cat and a dog, you have some pheromone products today. So there's Adaptil for dogs to lower stress and anxiety. And for those who don't know, when I'll explain what Adaptil is. It's a copy of a natural occurring pheromone. Pheromones are species specific. All species have them. It seems we don't use them as much or aren't aware of them. But the old expression, when sparks fly, that great-great-great-granny used, and when he met she and they fell in love and violins played and sparks flied, that sparks flied referred to pheromones, yeah. So when puppies are nursed by their mothers, in that milk, it includes a pheromone that actually naturally helps to calm the puppies. A copy of that pheromone is called Adaptil. You could even plug it into the wall. You don't smell it. Dogs really don't smell it, but they sense it. And that can lower stress or anxiety for dogs. For cats, there's, among other products, there's one called Feel Away. Feel Away, similarly, plug into the wall. And it's a fraction of the pheromone. You know how when cats rub their cheek pads against your leg or a table leg, what they're doing is depositing a pheromone. And I will translate cat language now. In cat language, that means I'm comfortable to be here. This is my place. I'm happy. I'm content. And those products can really help. There are nutraceuticals as well. That I'm not going to go through a whole list of all of them because there's too many to list, I think. But there's nutraceuticals as well. And again, they can lower stress and anxiety in a pretty natural way, without side effects. So I'm all for using tools like that. With cats, there's another tool. It's kind of old school, but with a lot of cats, it works. Catnip. Oh, yeah, that could be helpful as well. And another thing is, do you guys ever get deliveries from Amazon?
All the time.
Well, do you know what those deliveries, they come in what?
Cardboard boxes.
And you know what that's made for? Cats.
Enrichment activities.
Yeah,
yes.
That's right. So sometimes just putting out a cardboard box in the middle of a room, that in itself can, yeah, I know it's not vertical space, which you're right, that cats do need, but they somehow, not every cat every time, but nothing is true for every dog every time either.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah. So for most cats, they actually somehow feel safe. I mean, it could be a 150-pound Newfoundland and a little 7-pound cat who's otherwise afraid of the Newfie. Put an empty box out there and it's like, whoa, now I'm protected. So I don't know why that's the case, but it is for many, many cats.
It is amazing to watch cats do that. My cat likes boxes that are, just perfect size for him or a little too small. And it's so funny to watch him try to wedge himself in a box that's a little, I know I fit. You're like, honey, you don't fit. But I still leave it on the floor because he so enjoys it. But a really big box that even the dog could fit in, he's like, yeah, that's not a good box. But
the only thing I would caution there is my dogs love to chew on the boxes from Amazon. So that would not be a good solution in my house because cardboard boxes are to chew. That's why you have them. You don't have them put cats in them because that would be even better though. What a great chew toy with a cat inside.
Hey.
Look at what the prize is, like Cracker Jack, right?
There's like noisemakers and claws occasionally. It's, maybe fun, maybe dangerous, like other
That's
things.
Right.
And that's why, you guys are right. And that's why the individual circumstance matters. So, You know the milk crates you used to have in college that you put vinyl records in? No, not you guys. I'm talking about your grandparents.
No, that would be me.
Yeah.
No, that would be me too.
No.
Yes.
You could use something like that as well if the dogs didn't chew it.
Okay, that's right. There was something else you were going to say about cats that reminded. Oh, well, it doesn't matter. All right, we'll move along. So, do you find that? What do you do with dogs? Like, for example, my Zuzu has a very strong prey drive. And so we haven't really introduced. I have a cat who lives in my house. My grand cat lives upstairs on the 3rd floor. Strumpy was. Strumpy had a very interesting beginning. Her mother gave birth to the litter of cats in the bush outside my daughter's apartment, and then moved all of them except for Strumpy. And Strumpy was about 2 days old when they took her to the vet, and they said, good luck. You might be able to save her, you might not. And they did. They did a wonderful job, and but Strumpy doesn't really know how to cat very well. Occasionally she gets it. But because of that, she hasn't had a lot of introduction to other animals. And so she runs, and Zuzu's got a strong prey drive. So we haven't actually tried to introduce them. But because we haven't had to, because Strumpy can live on the 3rd floor and Zuzu can live in the other part of the house. But what do you do with something like that when you have a cat who is sort of damaged to begin with because had sort of a rough beginning on life, so doesn't understand other animals at all, and a dog with a high prey drive? Is that a situation that can become amenable?
Well, maybe not. So in your specific case, of course, you're as much of an expert. But in my opinion, just sometimes leave well enough alone, So if you have a cat that's happy living on the 3rd floor, and I mean, from what it sounds like, you've got 7,000 people in your house anyway. So cat has plenty of company with people and plenty of attention and plenty of love. I'm sure the 3rd floor, I mean, there are cats that live in tiny little apartments in New York City that are probably smaller than your bathroom. So, and they're happy. So the cat only knows what the cat knows. And as long as the cat is given appropriate enrichment, which is exceedingly important, but I argue that can be done even in a studio apartment, let alone a whole 3rd floor. All cats, I think, need that if they live indoor only. And I think they should live indoors only. So you've got a happy cat. I presume your dog is happy. So so in your case, but let's say you bring in a dog and then you learn the hard way, or maybe you knew the dog had a prey drive, that's a tough one. So the cats that are being chased, first of all, to put this into context, I believe they actually think they are going to die.
Oh, no doubt. There was, before I had Zuzu and Strumpy got out and Bingley chased her, it was the classic sort of cartoon. I've never seen anything move as fast as Strumpy moved through my house, down the front steps, through the dining room, through the kitchen, up the back steps, and I was able to throw the gate shut at the top of the back steps to prevent Bingley from getting to her. And my husband was poised with the door to the 3rd floor open, and she was going so fast she missed the turn to the door. I've never seen anything move that fast in my life. So, yeah, I think she honestly thought she was going to die.
Right. And nobody wants to live like that, obviously.
No.
And then, I'm worried about welfare of animals. And I mention that because I've gone in the homes where people have said, oh, look, the cat's playing a game of chase. And I'm thinking, no, this cat actually thinks it is going to die. Now, there are certainly dogs and cats who live together. The secret is the cats feel safe and they feel in control. Then they will often initiate a game of chase with the dogs, and the cats incidentally always win.
Yes.
But that's a different story. So dogs that have a true prey drive, some of that you can adjust, some of that you can make work, but for the most part, those are the cases where I don't have much hope. I really don't. And I don't want the cat to be injured or worse. And the welfare of an animal living in fear every day, and people say, well, I could separate them. Now in your house, you have all these floors in between, and you're a professional. But I will say, all you need are a couple kids to leave open a door or two, and now you've got a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
So
and I think we've all heard of the cat who only lives in one bedroom under the bed 24/7 year round because it's afraid of the dogs, and the people just sort of go, well, that's where she lives. And I think, no.
And that's just not right.
That's awful. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
when we go away with the dogs on the weekend, Strumpy has the run of the house. So she does get to get out and chase mice in the kitchen, which, because I have 4 grandkids living here with me, there's lots of food that leaves around. So we have mice too. This is a great household for cats. So Strumpy does get out to play when the dogs are not here. And when they will take her out to our cottage where we've got beams, and she walks on the beams. And so she does get enrichment outside of the 3rd floor. But I have never really tried to introduce them because we never thought of this as a permanent arrangement. And because I was always afraid that it would just be too terrifying for the poor little thing.
Well, and that's, I think, a really important piece that, if introducing them is likely to cause more fear or more anxiety, then we are really looking at how can I make you both have safe, happy lives? Whether that's in the same house or different portions of the house, or whether it means rehoming one of these animals, that it's not okay to say for the remainder of your life you're going to be afraid every day. That's just not an option. But it doesn't mean that we just say, well, they'll work it out.
And that's what I very much agree with you, Colleen. And that's what an initiative called Fear Free is all about. So Fear Free began in the veterinary community. A veterinarian named Marty Becker said, oh my gosh, these animals, a lot of cats in particular, but many dogs, when they come to see me, a veterinarian, they're terrified. And that's not why I went into this profession.
Right.
So veterinarians are doing a lot. They're becoming certified as fear-free veterinarians, and technicians or veterinary nurses, as I like to say, are doing the same. But fear-free really, and I'm all for that, and it's fearfreepets.com for further information. And look up and see if your veterinarian is certified, and ask your veterinarian why not if he or she isn't. Because, again, we need to do better. We can do better. But it's not all on the veterinary community. So it's not. I agree. And the kind of circumstance, first of all, there are going to be fear-free dog trainers, fear-free dog and cat behavior consultants. Fear-free as a group is working with the Karen Pryor Institute, International Association of Animal Behavior Consultants, and others, maybe APDT. I don't really know. That's the Association of Professional Dog Trainers. And I love it. But for all of you that aren't professionals, you can do a whole lot to make a difference. And the kind of scenario that you just described is one which you have animals that just, they're not happy every day. And, a bit of stress and anxiety is probably good for us, and probably the same is true for our pets. Living in fear every day is a completely different story. And we do know that's detrimental to health overall. And I'm anthropomorphizing for a second, but who would want to live that way?
Yeah.
And it's just not right. Animals can be rehomed. Now, I'm not always saying that's the answer. In fact, typically I give people all sorts of options, but sometimes that is the best solution. Or if it's not the best solution, how can we fix this? It doesn't need to be accepted this way, where an animal has to live in fear every single day. Also, an animal not getting the best possible welfare. So here's what I mean by this. Right now, in America, in this country that you are living in, I'll let you guess. How many cats do you think are overweight or obese, according to the National Association for Pet Obesity?
Are you looking for a number or a percentage?
A percentage.
46%.
She says 46 for $40. And you say?
My cat is not, so I'm going to go with a lower number. I'm going to say 30.
The answer is 60. 60%.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And when I speak at veterinary conferences, which I often do, I say, Well, what do you think? And most of the time, the veterinarians and technicians in the room say, no, the number is even higher.
Oh, wow.
And also what we do know is that your great-great-great-great-great-grandmother would look at today's cats and say, cats that I think are slim and trim, and say, wow, that cat's a big one. Because our perceptions have even been skewed over the generations of what is normal. So we've got a nation filled, I'm glad they're indoors. Don't get me wrong, glad they're indoors. But we've got a nation filled with overweight, obese cats. They're big around the tummy, and their brains are shrinking because we give them nothing to do. So it doesn't mean we don't love them, but cats are hardwired to hunt. It's what they're born to do. They have a prey drive. If you are born a CAT, you cannot help but to have a prey drive. And by giving them this meal in a bowl, and I'm not talking about whether it should be raw food or kibble, or I'm not getting into that, but we give them a meal. No matter what shape it comes in, we give them a meal, and we say, here it is. Well, cats naturally seek out prey, hunt that specific prey, and then pounce on it, and actually at times play with the prey. We've all seen those videos. In a house, except your house with all those mice.
That's right.
Around, yeah.
That's right. That's why you have to have 4 grandkids living with you, all under the age of 7, because then, lots of food gets left in different places, and so then you get mice, and so then the cat has something to do on the weekends when the dogs aren't there. So I do it for the cat. I do it for the cat. Really.
One thing I could say for you, you provided an enriched environment for the cats. Living with 4 grandkids, I'm not living there. Colleen,
thanks.
Living there? No?
I have no grandchildren right now, but I would love for them to live elsewhere so I can go and spoil them and then go home.
Exactly.
Whenever they come, which is in no time soon, gentlemen. My goodness, do not need to be having any anytime soon. So, Steve, tell me how you feed your cat and how you make sure that your cat can enjoy the meal without the dogs participating. What do you do?
I love that question. I love that question. So here I am saying we're feeding our cats all wrong. So what you're saying is then, well, what's right? So what I'm about to say isn't true for every cat, as I'll kind of go through. So you've got these animals, and I think we're feeding our dogs wrong too, incidentally. But for cats, you've got these animals that have a prey drive. There's no doubt about that. Science has shown in many ways that cats are born with a prey drive. That means they need to hunt. So how do we do that in a house? Because outdoors, especially in urban areas, and most people in America live in an urban area, they're not safe. And we know they don't live as long. So I want cats to be indoors where it's unlikely they're going to be hit by a car, I don't think. It's unlikely, unless, along with those mice, you have coyotes in your house, that they're going to be chased. No. It's possible in your home. But for most of us, no.
That's right.
So that's safer indoors. There's no doubt about that. But is life worth living at some point? If you've got, these cats are obese. Their owners love them. They have nothing to do. They are lucky that they use the litter box, actually. And they're lucky they even get off the sofa to eat, but they are because they're eating a lot. So what do you do about it? Which is essentially your question. I like the idea of feeding them a percent of food the way you've always been feeding it. And most people have multi-cats. They don't have a cat. They have 2.3 in America. So feed them the way you've been feeding them a percent of the food, 50, 60% of the food. But for the rest of the food, moist or dry, leave the food in different places around the house, with the exception of an older cat or a cat that's on a prescription or therapeutic diet. Leave the food in different, you have to teach the cats how to do this, but they generally learn pretty quickly. I like the idea of using the food puzzles, of which there are a myriad of them now. But I have a favorite. It's called the Indoor Cat Feeder. It's a favorite for 2 reasons. It was created by a veterinarian with a lot of science behind it, Dr. Elizabeth Bales. And it kind of looks like a mouse. That part doesn't matter. What matters, it matters to us, because we like that, but it really doesn't matter to the cat. What matters to the cat, though, is it's kind of got a surface that the cats can stick their claws into. And just like they would if it was a mouse. And then they roll it around, and when they roll it around, kibble tumbles out of it. And now you're saying, I feed moist food. Well, I'll tell you what to do in a minute. But for those that feed kibble, ultimately, you put these little toys, whether they be the product that I refer to, and I can send you a link and you can put that
Please
up.
Please do, because we'll put that. I think that's what Strumpy's getting for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's great. Whether it's the product I refer to. And by the way, if you order it, when you order things and you say, do you have a secret code or whatever they say online? If you say WIN Feline, WINN Feline, a part of the proceeds go toward cat health studies, which the WIN Feline Foundation funds.
Great.
So it's a double win in that sense. Now, for those who feed moist food, do you ever see these things on whether they be our food containers or whether they be on moist food containers that you get, for your cat food? Those little plastic things that you keep the food fresh in. You probably have extras around the house, right? You know what I'm talking about?
Are you talking about the lids that go on? Okay, yeah.
Oh, those, okay.
The little plastic lids. Mm-hmm. You get them at a veterinary clinic. They usually
sure.
Right? Or promotions if you go to a pet store or something. And you turn it upside down. You put the moist food in that. Same idea, put it in 2 or 3 or 4 places around the house. So it's the same theory, and you just do it with moist food. They can't pounce on it and you're not able to do that with moist food. We haven't, and no one I know has come up with a way to do that yet. But they will, because more and more veterinarians and behaviorists are on board with exactly what I'm saying. And it's not only a matter of getting the weight down in these guys, but it's also a matter of allowing a cat to be a cat and enriching the environment in a way that is very appropriate. Also, if your cat's doing one thing, quote, hunting for food, your cat's not tearing down the drapes.
Right. Your
cat isn't jumping on the counters doing things you don't want the cat to do. So, because after eating, what do all cats do?
Sleep.
They take a cat nap. Yeah, exactly. So it is for all sorts of reasons. Something that I am so totally on board with.
Excellent. So now you're doing this with your cat. Where are your dogs during this time?
That was my question.
That was my question. This is what our people are going to want to know.
How is it that my Bernese Mountain Dog would be so into this, right? Yes, Mommy is hiding cat food all over the house. This is the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, but not if your Bernese Mountain Dog can't get to the cat food. So, do you have radiators or bookshelves or window ledges or a large cat tree? Or for people that do allow their cats on the counter, a counter. Anything like that. And people do say yes, they check off those and others. Pieces of furniture that the cat is allowed on that the dog, even a Bernese Mountain Dog, simply cannot reach. And then what you do is you buy one of those cat beds where the sides come up a little bit. So as the cat rolls around, the product, the indoor cat feeder or whatever product you're choosing, it doesn't as easily fall on the floor. Can it? Yeah. And then your dog gets a couple of pieces of cat kibble, And the more often it falls on the floor, the more often your cat, or the more quickly your cat then learns, I'm going to do that again. And cats do learn very quickly, of course. So
I love the tip about the cat bed. That's an excellent tip.
Yes, I do too. I really like that one too. You are just full of great suggestions.
Well, my wife just told me the same thing today. She said I was full of it.
I'm sure Julie meant it exactly the same way your wife said.
Yeah, thank you, Colleen. He's not going to want to come back on the podcast with me. Maybe you, but well, these are all great suggestions. And I think that one of the things that we would probably also want to link to, Colleen, would be our rehoming episode. So that in the event that somebody feels like this is just not going to work, that they have an option of listening to some ideas for rehoming. But it could be that this is more workable than perhaps people first thought, especially when you think about the idea of keeping your cat safe, and you putting those shelves and putting the food up there so that the cat has something to do as well as someplace to be safe, that this might be much more workable than most people think.
So, those boxes that I refer to that you get from Amazon, or boxes, a great example would be the box. Do you ever buy paper for your printer?
Ever buy paper?
For your printer.
Yeah. So if you buy a big, a box of it, the box tops come with a lid that has this side that's about 3 inches high, and you could put it in there as well. I mean, if you think about it, you could think of all sorts of ways, or the kids can actually create something. I mean, this is your expertise, Colleen, but kids and dogs, there are so many things that they naturally do every single day with one another. Cats, not as much. So if the kids come up with a way, call it a cat feeder or whatever they call it, and they can make it with pretty colors, and they can create something that'll keep that little feeder inside so it doesn't fall as easily on the floor. So involve the kids in something like that. It's a lot of fun. There's no downside.
I have a question for you. One of the things that I will do for the dogs is I'll do a kibble hunt where I just take their food and I throw it all around my patio or around the kitchen, so they have to snuffle around for the food, and that's really enjoyable. Can you do that for the cat? Say, take that box from the top of paper and just scatter the kibble inside the box. Is that something that cats like to do? Obviously, I'm not a cat person, so I don't know this.
Totally yes. And in fact, what we do is we do exactly that when we leave the house. So when we leave the house, what we do is I will go into 3 or 4 rooms and I will scatter randomly some dog food. If the cat eats, unless again, your specific cat has a GI issue or cannot, for whatever reason, or is on a special diet, don't do this. But in general, a cat can certainly eat some dog food if they're interested. Many cats will not be interested at all. But what we do is I just scatter around the dog food. I leave. The dogs go, they're so happy. You laugh because they're looking all over stuff. And no matter where I put it, they always do find it. And the cat gets some too, in our case. And the only issues about doing this are to ensure that you don't have resource guarding issues, that dogs are not food aggressive. But if they're not, and that's if you have more than one dog. But to do it with one dog, that's an easy thing and a great thing. I think I love it. Something I also wanted to talk about, because I wanted to make the announcement on your show. I have not talked about this yet. So you will be a first.
We're the first.
We're the first. Yay.
Cats that scratch in all the wrong places is a problem. And what in America we've done historically to respond to that is we declaw cats.
Right.
And I, for years, have been saying, let's understand what this is. It's an amputation. And for those who don't know, it is not just like cutting the cat's nails. If you actually bend your finger, friends, not that finger, don't use that finger. Bend your finger, use another finger. Bend your finger at the knuckle. That is what they're cutting off the tip of the finger on all your cat's toes. That's what a declaw is. I'm not a fan of that at all. I think it's unjustifiably inhumane. It's wrong. And the city of Los Angeles, and just yesterday, as of this conversation, the city of Denver, city of Los Angeles said it can't be done within our city limits. A couple of small towns in California that have done the same. In Denver, Colorado, they're on their way to doing exactly the same thing, and it will be done. But there's a new product out now that will help people. So one of the things that I've been saying is you can't just tell people don't declaw.
Right.
Scratching in all the right places. And while some cats, particularly kittens, are very easy to teach, if a cat's been scratching at the wrong place for 7 years, how do you change that? Can you change it? And the answer is yes. And the answer is it's not as difficult as you thought. And now there's a product out there that can help. So I talked earlier about these pheromone products. So are you ready for the announcement?
Yes.
We are.
That's my official announcement voice. So the yes, you're excited. I can see.
Barry, I'm on the edge of my seat here, Steve.
Don't fall over. But this is exciting. So it's a product called Fila Scratch. And what it is, it's a fragment of a pheromone, a different one than described earlier for cats. It's a fragment of a pheromone combined with catnip. And what you do is you put this on a scratching post that you buy, a vertical scratching post. It does two things. It attracts the cat toward the post. And once near enough to the post, the pheromone, and the catnip combined will encourage scratching on the post. And we've known for a long time that catnip can do that. One thing I've told people to do is rub catnip on the scratching post. The problem is they're vertical posts, and the catnip always falls to the bottom, So here is a way that it can be applied. It's this blue dye sort of thing, applied to the post itself. And it really has been working in Europe. So I have no reason to think it won't work in the United States. But in general, what you do is no different than what you would do with a dog that's doing something you don't want the dog to do. Make it very difficult to do what the dog had been doing. So in this case, for the cat that's scratching on the sofa, take a car mat. If it's bigger than that, take the kind of mat that office chairs slide on, turn it upside down. In both cases, so nubby sides are up. Cats don't like to walk on nubby things. Put that over the sofa. If it's a smaller piece of furniture, you don't need to use something that large, but make it uncomfortable for the cat to go scratch there, if not impossible. And then offer next to that place somewhere that is perhaps more appealing. Fila Scratch actually makes it more appealing. Also, you can encourage cats in any number of ways. If you want to go through the process, you can actually clicker train a cat to scratch on the post. Some cats learn observational learning. I've done this myself, where you scratch, the person scratches, and then the cat gets the idea, remarkably enough. And once the cat gets its paws on the post a couple of times, well, guess what? They have pheromones there.
Yeah.
And those pheromones identify that post as that cat's, and the cat will go back there once it's after using it a couple times as his or her own post.
So my question there is, if you have multiple cats, do you need multiple scratching posts so they each have their own?
Yes and no. And we don't know. So that's a definitive answer. So for litter boxes, what we've presumed, in part based on studies that have been done, and in part based on presumption, the magic law has been one more litter box than the number of cats in the home. So if you have 2 cats in the household, 3 litter boxes. 3 cats, 4 litter boxes. For scratching posts, we really don't know because the studies haven't been done. And also, how would you do a study like that? It would be difficult to do. No matter, I presume the same. So ideally, if there are, and separate them so they're not next to one another. So if you have 3 cats in the home, 4 vertical posts, and at least 1 horizontal post, if not more.
Good to know. I never thought about individual scratching posts. I totally know the litter box rule, but not the scratching post concept. That's new for me, so thank you.
It's enrichment and it's resources. So it is the same with dogs, right? So some dogs, not all dogs, maybe not even most dogs as I think about it, but some dogs, absolutely. If there's one toy in the room, no, there's a problem.
Yeah.
But if there's 100 toys in the room, it's like, which way do I go? Which one do I get? I can't get them all. It's okay. The other dog can get some.
That's right.
And the more resources we provide in general for our pets, up to a point, the better it is. The only exception to that, I believe, are toys. So with toys, you could leave out 700 for cats, and at some point they've already killed them. It's better, I think, and for dogs, for a different reason, I think the same, to put out a certain number and then rotate.
Yeah.
Or with dogs, another, for enrichment, having your own choice is really important. So I believe strongly in putting, not cats, dogs, putting the toys in a box or somewhere, and let the dogs choose what they want to do. And if dogs aren't so friendly about it, put 2 or 3 boxes around the house, but let them choose. And even better for you if you could teach the dogs to put back their toys, which I've never done.
Yep, me either. I'm apparently not that talented of a trainer. But one of the things that Colleen and I talked about that too, and one of the things that I will do is if my dogs will take toys out into the yard, I will gather them up and I wash them, and then I put them in a laundry basket. And now it's like a whole new group of toys because they're brand new and they smell really cool. And I'll put it down and they can choose 3 or 4, and then the rest get put away. So, that's something I think we've encouraged others to do too, is, rotate the toys in and out, because even if it's an old toy, if it's been washed and hasn't been around for a while, it's going to seem new. And novelty is very entertaining to dogs.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure it is to cats too.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
Okay. Well, Steve, this has been great. I have learned so much today, and I'm very excited about, makes me want to move to Denver and get a cat. But that's great news for all the cats that live in Denver.
Yeah.
And this has been really very enlightening.
And hugely entertaining.
Very entertaining, really.
It's a
I
double
think we
win.
should just turn the podcast.
I mean, it's great
That's
to
right. We should
learn
just
something, but it's even more fun to have fun while you're learning it. So, thank you.
That's right. I think we should just turn the podcast over to Steve. So
I'd be happy to come on.
Spare time.
No,
in his spare time.
Happy to come on with you any old time.
Well, we already
that's
have
terrific.
a topic that we're hoping you'll come back and talk to us about, which is enrichment for geriatric dogs, because that sounds really great.
Yes.
So we will schedule with you, and that one will come. We'll just do a little teaser here for our listeners that hopefully Steve will come back and talk to us about enrichment.
I would love to do that.
We would love that too. So thank you so much for joining us today. This has been really great. I'm very much enjoyed it.
Thank you, guys. It's been an honor to do this. Thank you.
Well, thank you. It's been great fun. All right, then. We will see you in 2 weeks. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks for listening to Your Family Dog. Got questions? Interesting ideas? Colleen and Julie would love to hear them. Call 614-349-1661 or visit www.yourfamilydogpodcast.com to share your thoughts.